Joining us on the line now is KT McFarland, National Security Analyst for Fox News. Good morning to you, KT.
Good morning.
All right, so yesterday the president says, hey, by the time we get to 2015, by the end of this year, we will have drawn down our troops so that there are only 9,800 American troops in Afghanistan, and we're going to be completely out by 2016. Is this something that is being driven by our national security interest or the political calendar?
Well, it's always been driven by the political calendar. Our national security interests, I feel, ended about December of 2001 when we had defeated al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. Look, I rarely think Obama does anything right in foreign policy, but in this case, I think he's probably doing this right.
Really?
We should have gotten out a long time ago. Bush should have. We had every right to go in to kill al-Qaeda because those are the guys who killed our people. But we had killed al-Qaeda by December of 2001. There were less than 200 of them, and they hightailed it from over the mountains from Afghanistan into Pakistan. We should have followed and killed the last 200 of them. Instead, we told the Pakistanis, look, you guys take care of those 200, and we are going to stick around and build a new nation of Afghanistan that will be so strong that it will be able to prevent al-Qaeda from returning. Well, first of all, a lot of fallacies there. Pakistan was not about to get rid of al-Qaeda. They were making money off of al-Qaeda. 2, Afghanistan didn't want to be built into a modern democracy like we think of it. Number 3, al-Qaeda moved on. The minute they got out of Afghanistan and they saw they had better prospects, and they've moved on to Yemen, Somalia, Egypt, Libya, North Africa, the Middle East, East Africa. They don't want to go back to Afghanistan, or if they do, it's only the third stringers. So I think all of those justifications and assumptions were all wrong. And here we are, over a decade later, more than 2,000 Americans who have lost their lives, tens of thousands of Americans who will carry those battle scars forever, probably, when you add it all up, close to $1 trillion. And what do we have to show for it? I think the American people are right. We are tired of propping up leaders who don't like us in countries that don't matter.
I'm sort of surprised by your take, but you make a good argument. Here's another question that we're hearing this morning. Some people saying, well, look, if you say we're out by 2016, aren't you just telling the Taliban and al-Qaeda, set your calendars, start working on your 2-year plan?
Well, that's what President Obama told them in the very first place when he began the Obama surge into Afghanistan, where he had a date certain that we were getting out. I mean, they've been just waiting and biding their time. So the problem is with the infrastructure we've built in Afghanistan and the number of people who still remain, you can't just put everybody on an airplane and bring them home. It's going to take a little bit of time to wind down. In addition to that, I guess we give ourselves the fig leaf of saying, well, we're not just packing up and leaving in failure. We are like the Russians did when they were in Afghanistan. We're going to sort of stick around and give them a last chance. But believe me, by the time 2015 and 16 rolls around, the American media will have moved on, the political cycle will have moved, and we are going to forget about Afghanistan as fast as we forgot about Vietnam.
Our guest is KT McFarland, of course, Fox News national security analyst. You got to be following her on Twitter, by the way. It's KT McFarland with a D at the end. Don't forget that D. You don't want to follow that KT McFarland. She's not nearly as reliable on national security. KT, while we're in Afghanistan, can we talk about this blunder that happened over the weekend when the president went over and the CIA station chief's name was revealed to the world? It seems like this isn't getting that much play in the media, but this is a major problem, isn't it?
Well, they just destroyed one guy's career, yeah, absolutely. That man who was an undercover deep cover CIA agent, who had reached a pretty high level of authority as the station chief. Station chief means head CIA guy in any country, and he's now been outed. I've got to assume they're getting him out of there quickly because he is now a target, in fact, probably number one target of anybody who wants to kill Americans. And his career is effectively over. So does anybody bear the brunt? Oh, I'm sure there'll be an internal White House investigation. But increasingly, the incompetence of this administration, whether it's red line on Syria, whether it's the Obamacare rollout, whether it's the surge in Afghanistan, I mean, you can go down your list. The president never seems to know anything about it. He just reads about it in the paper with the rest of us. But increasingly, these guys are sounding like a bunch of stoned college students, in the dorm room, smoking a little ganja, trying to decide who's going to order the next pizza. The incompetence is just catastrophic. And then, when these things happen, veterans dying because they're on wait lists, CIA station chiefs outed, Russia, China signing an anti-American pact for the first time in 45 years. The reaction of the administration is, hey, dude, that was like 2 years ago. Hey, dude, that doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about the Russia-China thing. Because here we have two people that are just not really looking out for the best interest of the United States, all of a sudden becoming fast friends. It would seem that we should be a little nervous about that.
We should be running around like our hair is on fire. This is far more important than Afghanistan, than any of the other issues we face. Why? 45 years ago, the United States faced one major threat in the world, and it was the Chinese and the Russians. It's called the Sino-Soviet Alliance. It was the only alliance group that could ever do us in. And so then President Nixon set out to break those two apart. He made peace and opening to China, and so China was taken out of the anti-American equation. Only that left Soviet Union. Reagan took care of the Soviet Union. He engineered things so the Soviet Union collapsed. So then we were faced with nobody who could really challenge us militarily, economically, politically, morally, etc., on the world stage. And what we have just seen is that 45 years of effort of Republicans and Democrats in the White House and in Congress has now just been tossed away as the Russians and the Chinese have signed an alliance, which is the beginning of an anti-American alliance. The stoners in the White House think, hey, that's no big deal, man. And yet it's something that was so utterly predictable and completely preventable.
KT, while we've got you here, really quickly, there's a report from NBC News. There were some anonymous senior military officials who claim that they're concerned that they're being tweeted into combat, specifically in Nigeria. They think that they're preparing for a special operations event or operation to rescue these girls, and they specifically said, under condition of anonymity, that it's this social media campaign that is forcing the issue, not a clear, national security interest.
Well, the guys in the White House are too busy ordering pizza, making. They maybe do a few hashtags. They can do 140 characters, but they're not really making policies there.
Yeah.
They're going to read about it in the paper. Look, I do think that the United States has a role, not to intervene in countries. I think the wars of intervention hopefully are over, where we invade countries, topple leaders, and try to run them in our own image. But what the United States does have the ability to do in Nigeria and in other places is use our expertise, our military, to train special forces of Nigeria or help Egypt or, name your country, but help those people so that they can stand up tall and fight threats and terrorism to themselves. Not American fighters, but Americans to help train the other guys. And I do think that's a good use of our force, particularly because we are now going to go through a period of non-intervention.
All right, KT, thank you very much. Always appreciated.